Okay, it's 2 o'clock, and thank you all for continuing to join us for the rest of the Curation Alliance Forum. And following on with Katie's presentation on the State Historical Fund and those opportunities that present themselves to all of you. When we have traditionally done the Curation Alliance Forum for the past 5-6 years, we've traditionally done it on site, and we've always had some presentations and either workshops or that kind of thing going on in the morning. And usually the afternoon we had a tour of one of the repositories, either close by or that was actually hosting the forum. And my intention was in 2020 to go to Fair Play and have this event there, because I really do think that the South Park Archaeological Repository is really a model of sorts, in the fact that, and I have known Andy since the very beginning, one of our very first Curation Alliance forums, I think, that we held in Grand Junction. And he, through his efforts at working with Park County, was able to, when they built the new county facility, build a really fantastic repository for their collections in that area. So many of you may have not seen it and have not had the opportunity to visit it. So I wanted to highlight that particularly for all of you today. And we're really, really fortunate that Andy can provide something of this in a virtual format. So I hope that you will enjoy, and please ask questions to Andy about how the project went and how he planned it and all of that. I know he has a lot to share with you about that, but let me introduce you to him. Andy is the Executive Director of Park County Department of Heritage and Tourism, and he's also the South Park Heritage Area Coordinator. I believe that's the title. He's originally from England with a master's degree in heritage management from the University of Birmingham. And he's worked, of course, in South Park, but also in Jefferson County Open Space and the Denver and Minnesota zoos, and the Keystone Science Center. So, Andy, we'll go ahead and let you take it away from here. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, Todd. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around in the afternoon. It's usually my nap time right about now, but I'll work through it. Very kind words from Todd, but to be honest, any project like this is a project of many people doing a lot of work. So I'll take a tiny little bit of credit, but most of the credit goes to our partners. The South Park Archaeological Repository is part of a larger preservation project. And there are two essential parts to this project: the Archaeological Repository and our local history archives, which is our paper preservation project. Since we can't do the actual tour we have prepared a short video for you to get some idea of what we're talking about. And I'll play that for you right now. Oh, hi there. My name is Andy Spencer. I'm the Executive Director of the South Park National Heritage Area, and I want to welcome you all to Park County. I'd like to thank you for your time, and a big shout out for Todd from History Colorado for providing us with this opportunity. Archaeology has always been very important in Park County. Indigenous people have been here for thousands of years. We've been very lucky in these many years with a group of volunteers who have worked with Dr. Susan Bender from Skidmore College to survey and monitor the vast resources here in the county. That group has since evolved to the site stewards, and the site stewards are in a great partnership with our South Park National Heritage Area. South Park National Heritage Area is a federal and local relationship. We match every dollar we get federal funds with local funds. And we support the site stewards as part of our South Park Archaeological Initiative. Another major part of our initiative is a repository here in Park County. And we are down here in the basement of the old courthouse in Fairplay, taking a look at the place where our repository was for many, many years. And it was located here in the vault in our basement. Okay, well, here we are. This is where the South Park Archaeological Repository was formerly located, in the vault, in the basement, in the old courthouse here in Fairplay. As you can see, the room is very small and not terribly well suited for archaeological repository. We have a lot of friable materials here. We have fluorescent lighting. We had a lot of issues with humidity and with constant temperature. So those were always ongoing problems. As you all know, archaeological storage is a fairly low priority for many local and government entities. Things came to a head though here in the vault. One Friday about 6 years ago, a water pipe burst and filled this area with water. We told our commissioners that it was no longer acceptable that we store valuable archaeological artifacts here in a basement that's susceptible to flooding. And so that particular happening coincided with one stroke of really good luck, and that was Park County were starting to build their brand new county facility. This gave us at least the opportunity to try to get some better space for our archaeology artifacts. Oh hey, there you are. We were just checking temperature and humidity. A-okay. One of the great values of having a new facility. We have great temperature and humidity control here in the facility. This facility was provided because of the flooding in our old repository. It kind of convinced our commissioners that they really needed to find us a new place. There was a lot of competition for a primo space like this amongst the departments in Park County, but we were very fortunate. We told our story. We communicated with administration and commissioners to really get the idea that archaeology is important and archaeology repositories are important. Hence we ended up with this space. South Park National Heritage Area provided funds for all our shelving and equipment, and they also provided money for a cultural resource specialist to work with us on our paper protocols, procedures, and papers. We're very fortunate to that. I think our success really is due to partnerships, relationships, and communication. Telling the story. We've done a great job, but as you can see, we've still got plenty of room. We've got about 8 curatorial agreements in place right now, and we're looking forward to new accessions and filling these very, very sad empty shelves. Well, thank you. Thanks for bearing with me on that. Hopefully I'm a better archaeologist than I am a TV presenter, so thank you. Well, thanks for the comments of the video. It was fun to do, but not my full-time job. Another major part of our upgrade was and I think I mentioned it was our paper protocols. We upgraded all our documentation, including incoming accessions, our complete collections management plan, curatorial agreements, an emergency response plan, and a general updating of all our protocols and procedures. And I think I can work with Todd to make those documents available to anybody who would like to see them. The collections management plan is particularly interesting, I think.
Yes, indeed, we can do that.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Yeah, it's we were so fortunate that we'd had this bad episode, but we did turn that around and made a good, strong argument for space in the new building. We also did get 3 smaller rooms, which we house our paper collections in. The room is not perfect, but it's so much better than it was. And we hope to fill it with more and more collections and be a much more productive partner in History Colorado and everybody's work. One of the things that I would like to say is that it has definitely been a partnership. The partnership is mostly Park County, South Park National Heritage Area, our site stewards. And to speak a little bit of our site stewards, they do a wonderful job. They're a group of about 23 volunteers who monitor the various sites in Park County. They're currently monitoring, I believe, about 15 valuable sites at the moment. I should say that we have noted over 1,700 archaeological sites in Park County, with probably less than 5% of the county surveyed. So this is a very important county, especially for, at least in my opinion, for our indigenous peoples. The indigenous peoples that call Park County home, there's probably at least 18 tribes that would say that. And we have evidence of existence here in Park County for at least 10,000 years. And also we have some charcoal remains that have been dated 3,000 to 6,000 years ago. Archaeology is a big part of our job, but so is the paper preservation project. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. This came about because of our great flood. Our paper products, our paper preservation stuff was all in the same basement and threatened with flooding. So we moved those documents into a safer place, but they really just remained static. They weren't really helping anybody. So we came up with the great idea of finding partners. Not always easy, but one of the partners that we did find was the University of Denver Library Information Sciences group. Under their supervision and guidance, we began our digitization project. And I'm happy to say that we have digitized over 2,000 photographs already in this project, and we hope to complete our total of about 5,000 photographs. Then we can move on to our basic ephemera and also our map and other collections. Digitization is expensive and time consuming. We were very fortunate with DU in that they provided several students for us to help with the actual mechanics of digitizing all those photographs. So we really owe them a big debt. What I'd like to do is, if I can do the technology, I'd like to show you the website that we're currently working on. And let's see if I can pull that up. And hopefully you can see my screen here. Let me know if you can't. But this is our online resource page website for the local history archives. And a great example of this is...
I don't think we're seeing it yet, Andy.
You're not seeing it yet? Okay. Let me give this a try then. How about now?
No. Sure.
What are you seeing, Todd?
Just you.
Just me. Okay. Well, I can walk you through.
You could always do the link too in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do this. I'll do a link right now. because it's much more interesting than looking at me. There you go. So our website is the parkcoarchives.org, and it features a collection, as I said, of about 2,000 photographs. They are searchable, and they are available for just about anybody on the planet, thanks to hosting by CSU. What you're looking at right now, if you follow the link, is one of our more interesting little collections, and this is Charlie Dell. Charlie was an old school rancher cowboy, and we have been very fortunate that his family have allowed us to scan and record a couple of interviews and a variety of photographs, and even you can hear him singing songs that he used to make up. He was quite a character, and we're very fortunate to have that small little collection there. Okay.
That's great.
I would like to say a big thank you to our partners on the preservation side of things. We have received a number of grants from, well, most recently we got a grant from the Colorado Historical Records Advisory Board to continue our digitization project. I really suggest working with them if you possibly can. It's been a real joy working with them. Of course, DU and the Center for Rural School Health and Education gave us a grant to continue our documentation of school life in the 19th and early 20th century in Park County. I do also want to say thank you to the South Park National Heritage Area who have provided funds for us for various equipment. And of course, the citizens of Park County, they're the ones who I think will benefit the most. They have provided us with a variety of collections, stories, oral histories. We have about 50 oral histories now digitized and ready to go. And it's our hope that the citizens of Park County, and indeed Colorado and the world, will come to a better understanding of life here in the high country. Really, that's about all I have that I wanted to mention. I want to open this up to any questions that people may have. I'm sure you have some. So thank you. I'd like to hear those.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, so please feel free to unmute yourself, or if you'd like to join in just in the chat and type a question or two, feel free to do either.
Why is digitizing so expensive?
That's a great question. It's time consuming. There's a lot of manipulations. Well, at least with our collections, they needed a lot of manipulation to bring them back up to a level that was appropriate. And so that's the, if you take a collection to a professional digitizer, it can cost a lot of money. The easiest way to do it is to find some volunteers, if possible, who have a passion for this kind of thing, and they're willing to sit in front of a computer for several hours at a time, scanning and adding things like metadata to all those photographs.
I wanted to point out to you too, I guess Becca's got a question to you as well. And maybe I'll ask it after. She says, can you repeat how many staff and volunteers you utilize?
Oh, sure. Great question. We have, so the only people working on this project is one of the professors from DU. She works about 40 hours a year on this, so not a major time consumer, but we use student volunteers, I should say, from DU. We have 4 volunteers who come out to Fairplay every couple of weeks or so and spend several hours in the day digitizing, scanning, adding metadata to our collections. So to answer your question, we really don't have a big staff footprint on this. I do some work, but mostly it's about 4 of our volunteers, I'd say, working about maybe 200 hours a year each.
It's been now a couple of years since I've been up to your repository, Andy, but I know you have actually some space available for researchers if they wanted to take a look at the collection as well. And you did a lot of planning for, where the repository was going to be in the building and how, it would kind of be all secure from, the rest of the facility. Just kind of was curious, working with the county, what kind of research did you do to sort of kind of figure out, okay, what was the needs, what really could be, included in what, maybe was sort of like high on the agenda to get, and then, maybe if you had time and got grants, maybe later on, that kind of thing. So do you have any insight in sort of the planning process that you underwent?
Well, our planning process was, to be honest, was kind of on the fly. Things happened quite fast with the flooding of our building and the construction of our new building. We had to move fast to sort of isolate and plant our flag on those places. Otherwise, one of our other county departments were going to snap them up. The rooms that we have, including the repository, are all in the secure basement of the new building. No chance of flooding in that building. They're all security locked, humidity and temperature controlled. The interesting thing is with our repository is that it does have a fire suppression system. But the fire suppression system is separate from the rest of the fire suppression in the rest of the building. So there could be a fire somewhere in the building and the fire suppression system will activate. But if it's not near the repository fire suppression system will not kick in. So we don't need to have any damage for no particular reason. And I think that's a great add-on that we were able to negotiate. Essentially what we did as far as planning is we used money from a very small seed grant to work with a cultural resources management person to help identify what we needed to do as far as rehousing, reevaluating, redocumenting the collection itself, which fortunately wasn't a tremendous amount of work. But we also worked with this individual to get a better idea of exactly what kind of environmental controls, what kind of rooms we needed. And that was a great use of money for us to have an expert, a professional give us a list of items that we needed to do. It was a shopping list that I took out and tried to get as many grants to support those needs as possible.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. The grants are out there, but they are few and far between. Katie was really great showing us some of the grants that are available through History Colorado. The CRAB grants, which is the Colorado Historical Records Advisory Board, those grants are very good. And also we were super fortunate in being in the South Park National Heritage Area. If you're not familiar with these entities, there are 3 national heritage areas in Colorado and approximately 50 in the nation. They are a public, they're a nonprofit federal local partnership. The feds provide money through the National Park Service, and we in return have to match that grant dollar for dollar. So it's a real local, it's a locally controlled, locally defined project. And they give out grants to various projects that meet the mission of the National Heritage Area. And we're fortunate to be able to use a little bit of their funds to leverage other funds in order to get some of the equipment we needed, including a couple of scanners. And of course, scanners are very expensive once you get beyond the basics and the basic size. We are looking to get an even larger scanner, hopefully next year. I will be presenting to our county commissioners to try to tell them the story about how important preserving the paper documentation of our county is, and hopefully we can get some funds from the county commissioners.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you've got quite an amazing archive collection.
So if you know it, we currently have about 8 curatorial agreements out there, but obviously there's not a whole lot of excavation. So if there is any collections out there that need housing, I guess we're open for business, as they say.
Indeed. Any other questions for Andy?
Well, thank you all for your time. I really appreciate it. And although this was a virtual tour, I do encourage you, if you have the time, please contact me. I'd be happy to tour you in person if that's appropriate for you. Get you out in the high country and see our wonderful Park County. And I think Todd can provide you with my contact information, and also if you're interested in getting any of our updated documentation.
That's great. Thank you so much, Andy. I'm going to now kind of do my little kind of wrap up conclusion mark. So if you can stick around for that.
Sure.
I'm going to do a little presentation here. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Hopefully, if you can all kind of raise your hands or nod, that would be great. Okay, great. Again, I want to thank all of our partners for making this Curation Alliance Forum for 2021 possible. I'd like to first start off with Annie Mathis, who gave an excellent, I believe, presentation on collections and archive preservation needs, as well as some outstanding grant tips in putting together grant opportunities, kind of beyond what our State Historical Fund has available to us. So I hope you get some takeaway from that. We'll provide the link and the information to you here very shortly. The recording of that session will also be available to you for 3 months. And do take advantage of the opportunity here that Annie has to reach out to her with any kind of questions you may have regarding either preservation needs or grant tips in general. I'd also really like to thank, again, our great partners. First of all, Katie Arnsten and the State Historical Fund, who have provided grant assistance, of course, to many of our repositories, or a few of our repositories, and many, many projects across the state, of course. We're very, very fortunate to have that grant funding source available to us. And hopefully you've got some information available to you now about some of the new programs that the State Historical Fund now offers that could be provided for you and your collections. And then lastly, of course, here with Mr. Andy Spencer and the behind the scenes virtual tour. The video is fantastic. It came across really well. And I hope that you can see the space here. It's really fantastic. Small repository, yet big enough to house needs for quite a few years, I believe. And it's one to really highlight. So I'm glad that Andy was able to present and give you some bit of a tour of that. As he said, I wish it was in person, but hopefully you got something out of the experience and the video as well. So with that, I just kind of wanted to wrap up with some conclusion remarks. Again, this is kind of our fifth rendition of the Curation Alliance Forum. We started out in 2016 being hosted by the Museums of Western Colorado. And then we kind of proceeded from there to the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs and the Heller Center. We really appreciate the folks that were able to provide us hosting in those two places, as well as in 2018 back at History Colorado in Denver. And then we had really kind of our largest in-person event in 2019 at the Colorado State University and the Archaeological Repository there. And also kind of we had a behind the scenes tour of the Fort Collins Museum up in Fort Collins. So it was a fantastic event as well. Again, our plans were to be in Fairplay in 2020. And the pandemic sort of changed those plans. And now we actually asked folks in 2019 to provide us some impact. Would you be interested in different sorts of things? One of the highest ranked things was to have a grant writing workshop from the feedback we received. And then I also sent out a survey back in March, and we also got a pretty majority of folks who are interested in the grant writing workshop. I think many of you who said yes did attend this grant writing session. So I think that has been very beneficial to you, I hope. And everyone also said at the time in March, do you want this inline or in person? We were kind of still trying to decide, and almost everyone wanted to do an online version. I think now, since the pandemic, everyone is very comfortable at doing meetings and even some conferences in the virtual environment. So we're happy that we were able to do this for you in this kind of format. So we currently, of course, have 39 accepting state approved repositories. Those include some what we call on-site agreements, so it's very limited in scope, and in some cases they're sort of agreements that have existing collections that won't expand. But for the most part, we're really happy with the number of repositories we have in the state. We do have some gaps that are still out there in parts of the state where we'd like to see some more repositories. So if you are one of those folks that isn't a repository and would like to know more about the program, please let me know, and I'd be happy to share with you all the requirements and the advantages, and hopefully the support that you will receive from our office through this program. And I also wanted to kind of also highlight to you a study that's going to be coming out here. It has actually already been published, but we haven't really promoted that well, and that's the economic benefits of archaeology. And I have actually the hard copy, which we will be sending out to all of you who are state approved repositories. And the repositories and museums are actually highlighted in this study. It's kind of rare that we think of archaeology in the realm of economic benefits, but it is part of this larger framework of heritage tourism. And as you can see in some of the graphics that I've highlighted on this screen, That is a fairly high percentage of the tourism in Colorado is geared towards heritage tourism. So this really presents a real opportunity, I think, for all of our museums to kind of present a really broad sense of the history in their area. So, you know, not only have we been talking a lot about preservation needs, which I think are incredibly important and really probably the highest of importance, but we also should also think about the opportunities you have with your collections in highlighting them in some manner. And we could highlight them, you know, in traveling exhibits, publications, actually even virtual offerings such as virtual exhibits or virtual tours, that sort of thing. All those are incredible opportunities for you in your collections, and one that we'd like to encourage you to think about, particularly even when you're putting together some of these grant opportunity ideas. So you'll be receiving one of these, I said, very shortly, and we'll also have a presentation by our state archaeologist. Unfortunately, she had some technical issues with her computer. Her computer died and crashed on her, but we will have her for one of our future confabs. So again, you know, some of the support that we do is the programming that, like today. We've also have done in the past an internship, and we'll continue to do that here in the spring. So because of the pandemic, it's unfortunate we're not able to kind of connect in person and actually go and do some behind the scene tours of exhibits and things. And we'd like to do that at some point. But in the meantime, we're going to continue along with the training here at our lab with many students and avocationalists and others who are interested in learning a little bit about archaeological analysis, as well as just sort of basic rehousing needs. We do have quite a number of projects going on here at History Colorado. So, and we have quite a few, about 5 or 6 volunteers that are helping us with that effort. So if you're interested or know some students or other individuals that are interested in volunteering, please let us know. And we'd be happy to kind of help train and support some of these needs. So what other kind of offerings we're proposing here the rest of the year? We have in November, we're going to have Miss Marilyn Martirano, who you've already heard a little bit about, Katie talking about. She's going to talk about her lithophones. If you haven't heard about what lithophones are, they're sort of like large pestles, and many archaeologists used to think that they were pestles, but she has discovered that they are probably musical instruments. So she would like to present to you some of her research and ask you the question, maybe you might have these in your collection. So look for that confab on November 18th. And then on December 2nd, we're going to have, as I mentioned, the state archaeologist, Dr. Holly Norton, talking about archaeology for changing Colorado. I hope that you've enjoyed sort of the confab. We've sort of changed up the confab from last year, which was kind of more of a discussion group where we've talked about a number of different subjects, to one that is more in a presentation and then Q&A kind of format. So let me know if you like that format, or if you'd like to have another kind of get together where we just talk about issues, or even in a social manner, we can do that as well. Some future ideas that I'd like to explore in the next year, and which I'm already kind of working on in some manner, are some guidance to researchers and also the consultants out there on, you know, how to get your collection ready for deposit. I field a lot of questions in that regard, and you know, what happens when you have a ton of soil samples? Well, the repositories, by and large, have told us, you know, we don't have a lot of room for soil samples. So what do you do with it? So it's questions like that, that I'm putting together some guidance on that. So and maybe some more guidance also geared towards not just the repositories themselves, but to our researchers who are using and utilizing your repositories to store their collections. I'd also like to kind of also possibly explore, some virtual exhibit options like ArcGIS story maps. I think that is an excellent tool if you don't know what that is, but it's an opportunity also for you to highlight some of your collections in a virtual manner, using sometimes, maps and mapping capabilities, but oftentimes just with a lot of stories and artifacts that are highlighted. Also working with avocational artifact collections. I know a number of repositories have not only CRM collections, but they also have an enormous amount of collections that local artifact hunters have donated to their institutions. And I would like to explore a little bit about, maybe some guidance. Also, what could you do with those existing collections that you have? How can they be more beneficial, more not only to the public, but also to other researchers? So those are some other ideas. We also have a small number, of course, paleontological repositories, and there are many of these museums, and your repositories themselves have small paleontological collections associated with them. What are the special needs that might be needed for those collections? We can explore that. Also, collections research. How do we incentivize? What are the challenges? Perhaps we'll have a confab here with one of our recent researchers who's looked at some collections and provide us with some insight. And then, of course, lastly, but not least, Native American collaboration, a really important aspect, I think, to the work that's happening not only in Colorado, but nationally, is reaching out to our Indigenous partners and making them partners and giving them better voices in our collections. That takes a lot of work and building of trust and all of that. We've kind of talked a little bit about those issues last year in a very kind of brief sort of way, but I'd like to delve into that a little bit more. Many of institutions also have some NAGPR issues and just sort of decolonization, DIE, or diversity, equity, and inclusion types of issues, which again are really not only happening here in Colorado, but of course nationally. And those I think are trying to be addressed. So we're hoping to give you some guidance on that. We at History Colorado have done an enormous amount of work, I'm very proud to say, and we're very happy to share some of the work with you to help you guys out. So that's kind of what's looking ahead into next year. But I'm always eager to and entertaining any ideas that you might have as well. Also, sometime next year, I also hope to have sort of a retrospective. It's been a while since we've started this whole program. Actually, in 2017 is when we revised our rules and procedures. Earlier than that, of course, we had a curation crisis. And I think it's time that we kind of evaluate where we've been and where we need to go. So this may take the form of a small session online or something like that. So look for that as well. Again, I really encourage you all to take a look at our website. We've got a ton of information, and of course, that's where we'll have most of all the newer kinds of guidance will be posted at our website. So with that, I just want to thank all of you, and I wanted to also share with you, I do have an evaluation that I'll be sending out separately, but if you have time and you'd like to try to fill it out now, just to tell us how well you like the Curation Forum, what you'd like to see differently, what could really appreciate all of that, that feedback that you can provide to us. So I think I said we were going to be stopping before 3, and I think we are going to make that happen. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to hang around here for a few minutes. But we'd really like to appreciate all of you for joining us, and hope you have a good rest of the day.